This episode of the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast is brought to you by Patreon and the Gentleman Scofflaw merchandise page. Go to gentlemanscofflaw.com. In the menu, click the support or shop links to help support the show.
You are listening to the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast. Listener beware.
Rise and shine, the liquor store is open. I ain't got time for moping. I best be on my way. Well, I still got time to save my reputation. Time to go day drinking in this dirty little town.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast, the podcast for the rebel and the Renaissance man. I'm your host, Jordan Crowder, and with me in person, as usual, is Donovan Fowler.
Yo.
And all the way from the Great White North is Johnny Boy.
Hi, everybody.
And we got a little surprise here. Usually they're not here this time of show, but we've got actor, comedian, TV show host, author, writer.
Extraordinary.
Well, I guess not. Could you say an author? I guess you could say an author. Stephen Crowder. How
What
you
is
doing?
this? What is this like a morning in the zoo bit? You're sitting there, okay, well, all right, let's get ready to go. Good morning.
Good morning.
Vietnam.
Well, you know what happened was we started doing the show, and it was too low energy when I just go, "Good afternoon, everyone." It sounded like PBS,
NPR.
It sounded like NPR.
Yeah, that's what I meant, NPR. And so we changed it up. I was like, I got to start on a higher note, so because the song comes in on a higher note. I don't know.
Sure.
Just
come in with
on too high of a note, and all the dogs could hear you, but we couldn't hear a thing.
Just start it with like a horrible racial epithet.
Oh no!
And then everyone's ears will perk up, and I'm like, all right, now we're back down.
There we go.
All right, now
Thanks.
we're ready to
Best
go.
impression.
Let's start off with a little bit of housekeeping here. I am smoking my Peterson Dublin pipe, and in it I've got a Peterson blend called Luxury Blend. And I'll light that up there.
Yeah,
How about
light
you,
it up.
Stephen?
You know, I've actually got we'll do smoking first before beverage. I've got a I just forgot a Brebbia pipe. Yeah, I've got a Brebbia pipe here, black and tan, and I'm actually smoking a blend from Country Squire. He's going to be on our show pretty soon, and it actually might become a Crowder Brothers blend. I wanted to perfect it before I send it out to you, but
Nice.
we experimented around with it. It's almost entirely burley, so it's basically toasted burley, dark fired Kentucky burley, and then just a little bit of Cavendish because I wanted something that was, had a decent room note for the misses, but was high nicotine. And I just really like the way burley smokes long and slow. I'm not a Virginia guy.
Yeah,
and,
I don't like Virginia either.
He experimented with a few like kind of berry Cavendish, and this is the second one. I didn't want Perique in it, so it's pretty much entirely burley and a little bit of Cavendish. So once we get it to you, it's kind of what I've always pictured a pipe smoke to be, just kind of robust and that room note, but not like sweet in the mouth. We're getting close.
Oh, nice! I'm looking forward to trying it. Then that'll be fun.
Sounds awesome.
What do you guys got in your glasses there, guys?
I've got a lovely Molson Canadian, which is terrible.
Oh, you said
but
that
I
in
have-
front of Steven. That's
True
not
to
going
form.
to end well.
No.
I have a Coors Light to, wash that
Good
down. And then some spoiled milk to wash that down.
Well, that's gonna wash it up if you do spoiled milk at the end of it.
You know better than this, John.
I
What?
never saw Molson Canadian when I was much. It was always Molson Dry or Molson Export, ironically.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've got so I have, of course, Wild Turkey is the base. I've got a cocktail that I made myself from Northern Michigan. So I've got because I wasn't planning on actually drinking or smoking anything, and you guys wrote me in tonight was going to be a break night because I know we have our 50th year anniversary this weekend.
Yeah.
So
Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah,
Thank you
congrats.
very much. I appreciate it. It's got Wild Turkey in there as a base, and then I have a little it's a Saskatchewan. So as opposed to vermouth, it's got Saskatoon berry liqueur made from a small distillery up in Northern Michigan, with same thing, with bitters. It tastes kind of like Saskatoon berries. Tastes kind of like a middle ground between a blueberry and an almond. And it's in a liquor, and it's just you just add a dash of it. It's very nice.
That's nice. Do you drink that while riding your fixie?
Yes, I do. With my handlebar mustaches and often neon sunglasses.
It seems like that's like, what is it? The craft cocktail now is really big. Like, and that's the thing. Like the hipsters, they do some good things like that. But
it's just like it's just I just have the bar outfitted here. You know how I know I'm not an alcoholic? I have all the same things that when you were here and we outfitted this bar, with the exception of the Hendrick's gin, because I have this Northern Michigan gin. By the way, anyone who's Jack Pine gin is the best gin in the world. Good.
My friend Joseph too, his wife is from Grand Rapids, and he said that's his favorite gin. He said all the stuff at that distillery is good.
It's really good, and it just looks like an old like nursery. And Mark Ripito, he called me. Now, when am I to be expecting that gin? I'm like, well, just come pick it up. I'm not shipping liquor. So yes. So sorry. Now you asked me one question and I go on for 20 minutes. See, this is what happens when I talk politics all the time. I'm going to talk about anything else.
I think Steven
What's the deal with Trump?
Oh no, he's opened up a can.
Open up that Pandora's box. I think Steven's been like one of the most detailed. Like he's actually gone into what he's smoking and drinking.
I'm always just like, I've got this and this. Let's get on with it. We've got. Well, what do you got, Donovan? You brought this stuff here from.
I got this is a Bosun chocolate stout.
It's pretty good.
It was recommended by my dad in Kansas City, but it's a Trader Joe's thing. It's not bad. Yeah, it's actually for stout. It's and it's definitely got that cocoa thing going on. So.
I thought the whole thing, like you guys sell flasks, I thought it had to be liquor or something. I would have gladly just consumed a beer.
Usually we do, but I didn't have any liquor left in the house other than tequila because we were making margaritas a couple weeks ago.
That's how you know Jordan's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I just drink it straight.
I don't have any liquor left. It was a busy lunch.
We got to do one thing before we get on with the rest of the show. We got to thank a new patron on Patreon. Her name is Jennifer Anderson. She joined at the Renaissance Woman level.
Sure, it's not Aniston.
I had to add woman on there.
From the Leprechaun movie?
Yeah, that's it. As you know, we've been on hiatus.
This one played pogo on his lung.
Points for that reference.
Oh, man. That was before pre-Jennifer Aniston nose job.
Is that the thing? Yeah, I guess she did get a nose job. Yeah.
You didn't have Owen Benjamin on because he's hung out with her, and he was like, he's like, I was because Nick Schwartzen is good friends with her. My bud Nick Schwartzen, and like I was there, and she was really nice and everything, but it makes you realize that you can still like she seemed really sad. Like you realize you can still cry in a castle.
Oh man!
By the way, for our listeners, Owen Benjamin was not just in the room.
No, he wasn't. That's funny.
He's amazing. He's one of my favorite people like ever. We've just kind of it's you have those people who are your kindred spirits with.
Yeah. And
he hates LA. By the way, he's like he texts me. He's like, I'm in LA. I feel like I am literally seeing demons.
Oh, he might be. You never know. On Hollywood Boulevard, so somebody might just be in a demon costume, and you never know the difference.
That's true.
Yeah.
One thing that happened that I don't know if Stevens met my parrot, and you have met my parrot, Donovan.
I thought it was a cockatiel.
Well, it's a cockatiel is a subset of parrot. But I say parrot because not everyone know what a cockatiel is, right? So unless you're in the birds. But
I was playing with my cockatiel. I thought it was a family podcast.
But this last week, our parrot Ernie, we found out is an Ernesta because he laid eggs, which is kind of
how many?
Two eggs.
Ernie's been abroad this whole time.
This entire
you got
time.
You got yourself an omelet right there.
That makes me uncomfortable because I've like slept over here alone. And, I thought we were just broing out here, but
I knew and Mel Gibson's gonna leave a voicemail. I knew your cockatiel was making eyes at me.
Well, I was joking around. I was like, at least with Bruce Jenner, I saw it coming. I came up in the morning and Lacey goes, what the? And there's eggs in the cage.
They look like Cadbury eggs. Like they look exactly like that.
It looked like it was a prank. Who knows? Maybe you pranked me. Maybe you came in while we were sleeping, and that's what it is.
It wasn't me. But it reminds me of that scene from Jurassic Park where Sam Neill explains how the frogs spontaneously change sex or something in certain parts of the world, and that's why the dinosaurs can recreate.
He's a horrible actor. Have you noticed that? Like, he was in. I was watching Peaky Blinders, and Sam every time Sam Neill shows up, I'm like, oh, just go. Like, he's so
He's a bit one note. It's crazy. He was almost Bond.
Really?
Yeah, he came very close to Bond at one point,
crazy.
which makes sense. I mean, Bond is kind of a one note.
He would be terrible as Bond. Like, James Bond. They do travel in James Bonds.
He'd be better than Timothy Dalton, that's for sure.
Oh no!
I will say this:
that's debatable.
Timothy Dalton, the first Timothy Dalton one, actually, it was kind of like an early Daniel Craig. It was not as bad as people think it was early on. It was just the darker Bond, and it wasn't. And Pierce Brosnan was the best Bond, probably in the worst Bond films outside of GoldenEye.
Yeah,
GoldenEye. I
agree.
GoldenEye is tops.
Yeah, that's my James Bond. I think of that girl like as a young kid seeing that and thinking that James Bond was really cool because of that movie.
That was something my little brother was like. We were arguing over what the best James Bond was, and it turned out he hadn't seen GoldenEye. So I was like, okay, well, stop right there. And I just showed him the first 20 minutes, which is like the dam, like the bungee jumping off the dam, the diving out of the plane. It's like it's the best opening to a movie ever.
Yeah.
But the rest of it doesn't hold up the same way. Like when Xenia's like squeezing, she's so over the top, like, oh yes, I'm going to squeeze the life out of you. You're like, hold on a second. There's no leverage.
Wait, was that like the leprechaun that came back?
I don't know. I'm going to squeeze your lung. No, she like if you realize actually, because there's actually a move if you look in jiu-jitsu where if if guard is just what Xenia was doing, you cannot actually like squeeze someone that hard with guard. What you can do is if you reach your arm through, so you create kind of like a third lever point. You can actually see it where a guy does that in guard and just a guy on top of him doesn't tap and just throws up right on him. Yeah. Like you can actually like crush someone's ribs, but so it's just like I don't know, it just defies the laws of physics, and she's just so little. Like I'm tired of the female villains or action heroes if there's any physicality. If they're using a computer, fine, but if it's like Atomic Blonde or something, it's like
yeah, that's like you realize. Well, when I first saw the trailer for that, I was like, oh, it's a superhero movie.
Nope.
I was like, I've never heard of this superhero before, Atomic Blonde. But I mean,
for the Marvel universe.
But I guess you suspend disbelief for so many action movies anyway.
Well, considering the opening scene of GoldenEye has the guy skydiving into a plane, you can
skydiving into a plane.
You haven't done that?
Well, he smokes a cigarette.
Isn't it crazy though? That's more believable than a woman doing pull-ups.
Oh man. Wait. Well, I forgot to mention. I mean, we're going to talk about this Floyd Mayweather Conor McGregor thing in another segment, specifically. Where we go into it more because Steven's kind of what would you? I mean, you wouldn't be an expert, but you're an efficient. I guess you're kind of an expert, an aficionado in mixed martial arts and Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
I just blew out my knee. I was teaching Owen Benjamin in the garage when he was here, and it wasn't even a thing. Like it's so disheartening. I just heard a crack snap. He's like, "Oh, bro, what?" I'm like, "You didn't do anything. I just moved." It's like the knee's gotten so bad now. But actually, me and my dad and Jordan actually is doesn't sell himself short. He's done a little bit of it, but I've done it for a few years, so I'm looking forward to it. I don't know much about boxing, so I'm not an expert on that. I've trained a little bit in it, but I have opinions.
We'll get in that in a little bit here. But John, what happened with you today? I mean, it seemed like you had a pretty interesting encounter.
Yeah, let's grill John about that.
I was out for a walk and I saw Celine Dion.
Oh, really?
Or as they call her up here, Celine Dion.
Did you actually though?
I did. She was, I thought she might have been doing something for one of her charities for the muscular dystrophy cancer herpes thing, whatever it is. But it turns out she's just shilling some of her goods at Brown's. She has a new line of bags or something.
Finding a new old guy to screw.
No, I think she's the pedophile now. Her boyfriend, I think, is 12.
Oh yeah. Well, she kind of went the other way on that one.
Yeah. That's terrible.
How tall is she?
And it made me realize she's nothing like Alice Cooper.
What?
All right, we'll let you explain.
Yeah. All right, I'll bite.
He's a much better singer. And a better dresser.
Than Celine Dion?
Yeah, and he applies makeup much...
I mean, they kind of have similar makeup styles, don't they?
He knows his history,
makeup
too.
He does know that.
That would be a cool thing, is have Alice Cooper do a Celine Dion cover.
That would be pretty neat.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah, he's she does have an amazing voice. I'll give her that. She's just so awkward. It's that whole like French Canadian trying to be casual in English thing, you know, where it's like the wink and the nod, like, hey, you know, you gonna see about it, and like wink. It's like, no, like it's not. Just stop trying to be coy. Like just. Well, it's not your language.
You know how I feel the same way about that, and she's not French, but she's also Canadian, and I respect her very much and think she's talented, but I think that she comes off that way, is Shania Twain. She comes off very like, even like in her songs, it's like everything is like, nah, 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 nah. Yeah. Nah, 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 nah. Cool.
Yeah.
Like everything is
nah,
like
nah, nah, nah. Women. Nah, 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 nah. Cherry Coke. Product placement.
But apparently she's making a comeback. She had something that happened to her voice that like she was out of music for a while, but she's going back.
Just because you can sing again doesn't mean you're making a comeback.
Well, her comeback is, was disappointing because it's just her saying, that don't impress me much. Men shirts, short skirts.
Oh.
No, there's too much tonality to that. It would be.
I remember once in a gym in a gym class in high school where it was weightlifting. That was what we were doing for that. Whenever you do it for the month or whatever, that's what we were doing. And that song came on the radio, and it was like the scene from Full Monty, where like every guy in the gym started kind of sort of swaying to it and knew all the lyrics to it, and it was like everybody knows this song.
It's true.
Let's go to a little segment here that we like to call
Sir Crowder's Restroom Review of the Week. Oh dear.
All right, this is the part of the show where I review my favorite restrooms. That's the problem with restroom review. Restrooms. My favorite restrooms on Yelp. Today's restroom is Magnolia Car Wash, again in Burbank. And let's get this started here. Oh, somebody opened another beer there.
That reminds me.
You getting ready for this segment there, John?
Oh, yeah.
All right, here we go. Much like the preacher that is out of touch with their children's reckless behavior, it is clear that Magnolia Car Wash has spent all their efforts cleaning cars that they have neglected their own bathroom. Upon first entering this washroom, one would worry that the door cannot lock. I assure you that it does, but it's only hanging by a thread. Should someone in extreme haste while touching cloth want to enter the commode?
What the hell just happened?
Look what you did, you little jerk.
Well, just keep going. This is the show. That's the show. Keep going. Keep going. Don't cut this out. Keep going. Keep going with the review. People want to hear this. They want to.
My table just basically fell apart on me. All right, let's finish this review.
Keep this in.
All right, our podcast table just collapsed. All right, let me start back from. Should somebody want to enter the commode, that door hinge would do nothing to stop the charging throne seeker. In addition, the interior is reminiscent of a shooting location from the Saw movie franchise. The unfortunate fact that the toilet paper is missing and the soap dispenser is empty is a form of special torture in its own right. On the way out, be sure to discard your hand towels into the mop bucket by the suspiciously placed spoon. 1 star for this Turkish prison. All right, let's fix this table here.
Why the spoon? Do you think it's like there's like someone speaking through a security camera? Like, all right, you're locked in. You have a spoon and half an hour. Go.
Yeah.
Listener mail.
All right, this is the part of the show where we interact with the listeners. We call it listener mail, and you could be a part of the show. Just send us a tweet, a Facebook message, but iTunes reviews also help, get the word out there for the show. But we also use it as fodder for stuff to read and talk about on the show. So, John, what does that first review say from iTunes?
All right, this one says, I highly recommend this podcast. Needs more aromatic cherry, though. That one's for you, Donovan.
Nice callback.
So that's a callback from the first episode when we talked about an aromatic cherry, which was a tobacco, which, I don't know. Steven, do you smoke any cherry tobacco at all?
One of the early tobaccos I ever smoked was actually from a pipe shop in Grand Rapids. It was an aromatic cherry, and cherry can go either way. It can kind of be medicinal, or it can be really nice if it's just a good kind of natural casing. So, I liked that one, but it was just, one of those house blends, and I've had a tough time with cherry since then.
Just depends.
Yeah, I think the only cherry that I've had that I liked was called Cult Cherry, Cult Blood Red Moon or something like that. It's one of those small little like tobacco, like one of those online tobacco blenders, and it was actually pretty good. I had it at the Pipe Club, but that's the only one that I've liked. Otherwise, it always, like you said, it tastes like you're smoking cough medicine.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to be careful. The worst thing I ever had was a cherry vape. And I know it sounds super douchey, but they're like these little vape pens. Hillary and I were in Hawaii with some friends, and they had them just laying around, and they had a cinnamon one, and it tasted really good. Yeah. And every now and then, like when we're done with a really late night show, it's nice to kind of have, but Hillary doesn't, my wife, sorry, 1L, good Hillary, she doesn't necessarily want smoking in the house. So it's kind of nice to have, but they have some that actually really replicate tobacco blends. So.
Yeah, really. Some of those vapes are pretty good, but just you have to get over the fact that you're vaping.
Well, that's a vape, bro.
Don't they explode? Bro. I heard they explode.
They used to. Well, no, I think there was a guy, I remember hearing this. There's a guy who messed with his vape where he tampered with it so that you could get more out of it, like more nicotine.
Modify it, right? They call them vape mods or something?
Yeah, it blew up in his face and sent shrapnel everywhere. And
cigarettes and pipes don't do that.
Yeah.
What, they give you cancer? All right.
Now, John, do you ever smoke a pipe or no?
I have attempted unsuccessfully. I think the blend that I sampled was what was it, Jordan? I sent you
the thing is, he went to a pipe shop and they gave him a Virginia blend, and it's like
smoked
basically
too hot.
And it's if you're not into that thing, it's really not. I don't think it's a good thing to start with. I don't know.
You should send him some of Country Squire. Their I think it's Cherokee blend is their kind of their mainstream one. I think John would. You need to get him something good and a decent decent pipe to try it out.
Is like there in Quebec,
the border's a problem.
Yeah, like he spent $30 on a tin of that stuff for like an ounce. What is it? An ounce and a half or whatever?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
That sounds like Canada.
Yeah, that's.
Well, what can you say?
That was
we're full of expensive tobacco and Celine Dion up here.
All right. We got an email from Susanna here, also from Canada, John. She says, thanks so much for featuring my quiz on your show. It was a lot of fun to actually hear someone playing it. You are indeed correct. I made it before Trudeau became prime minister. Actually, I made it to amuse myself and maybe a few friends, and had zero clue it would get so many hits. Keep up the hilarious work. Cheers, Susanna. So she just sent this. I had no idea who made this quiz. We just used it on the show to mess with John, and I guess she somehow linked back to us and found it.
Thank you, Susanna.
I think we need a follow-up post Prime Minister quiz.
That's a good idea.
Did I tell we have a Trudeau costume just for whenever the next time Canada is relevant in the news? We bought one.
No.
And I swear to you, it's just a giant. It's just a giant party.
Robert Schillinger tweeted us a picture of a Gentleman Scofflaw sticker on his hydro flask while he's
looks like he's like doing
is he
some
digging
landscaping.
A grave?
Is he burying a body?
It looks like he's burying a body. I don't know.
First, I thought you guys had some budget, and you had like, oh man, they're doing custom hydro flasks. Then I realized it was just some guy who put a sticker on it.
We keep it simple here at Gentleman Scofflaw.
We ordered a couple thousand stickers for the Big Shave West a few months ago, and we're still giving them out. So
either way, whether he's burying a body or he's like digging a garden, he's doing something manly in that backyard.
Yeah. Whether it's murder or gardening, he's doing something manly. Well, thank you, Robert. And let's go to a quick break, and then we'll come back to talk about the big fight this weekend. Now, this segment is brought to you by Audible.com. Now, for those of you who already listen to podcasts, you probably already know about Audible.com. And maybe you've tried it or maybe you haven't, but here's a good opportunity for you to try Audible.com for free and help support the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast. So if you go to audibletrial.com/gentscofflaw, You could sign up for a whole month for free, get your free audiobook, and that helps support us. That affiliate link helps support the show. So if you like listening to podcasts, you probably like listening to audiobooks. It's pretty much the same thing, except, probably something a little bit smarter and a little more life affirming than what you listen to on the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast. Sorry. But you can listen to all sorts of books. I recommend The Art of Manliness by Brett McKay. You can get that for free as your free trial. You can really download any book you want to on there. So go to audibletrial.com/gentscofflaw. There are tens of thousands of titles. I mean, why not get some knowledge in you, right? Right? I mean, if you're driving to work, why get mad in traffic? Why do that, right? Why not just listen to something that fills your brain, fills your brain and your soul? Or, maybe you're mowing the lawn, right? That's not fun to do. Mowing the lawn's not fun at all, right? But if you're listening to an audiobook, you're like, this is not so bad. I can do this. At least I'm learning something, or at least I'm being entertained, right? So, audibletrial.com/gentscofflaw and sign up today. And, tweet at us. Let us know what book you get, because I'm always looking for new book recommendations. All right, now back to the show. All right, now this is what the show's all about, right? This is what we've been talking about all week. I wanted to have Steven on because he knows a lot about mixed martial arts and Brazilian jiu-jitsu and all things fighting. Let's talk about this.
Who's laughing? Why is anyone laughing? I don't understand this.
It's just funny because it's like, I don't know. It's like
funny how?
It's funny because it's like
how am I funny? How am I funny?
It's funny because it's fighting.
I'll tell you what's funny is your stupid podcast table broke.
Oh yeah.
Kiss my ass. I'm going to build a wall in front of your apartment.
For those of you who were wondering what happened in the last segment, our podcast table just broke. Now
Jordan was like, let's cut. And we were like, no. This is the show. You keep this.
Gotta keep it rolling.
We're gonna leave it in, but that's one reason why you could become a patron on Patreon. Get us a new podcast table.
To Jordan's credit, he kept going regardless. I think a lesser man would have panicked and run out the door, but he kept going with his restroom review.
But yeah, let's get going on this. Let's shift gears here and go on this Conor McGregor Floyd Mayweather fight. I don't know too much of the background about how this came together, but I feel like it's been something that's been brewing for a while. Am I right about that?
Yeah. I kind of feel like this question has been answered, James Toney, Randy Couture. I mean, it really goes back to Art Jimerson, Royce Gracie, the very first UFC ever. Yeah. But now we're taking a UFC fighter and putting him in boxing, which to me is, it's really more so a test of Conor McGregor individually. The whole style versus style thing was settled because now we're seeing, is Conor McGregor a good enough fighter to adapt to eliminating 80% of the tools available to, the human body in fighting? Yeah. He's kind of been holding up divisions. The UFC, since it was bought by William Morris Endeavor, and they've not had a good go. I mean, John Jones has tested positive for steroids for the second time, along with cocaine. So he's the best fighter, probably outside of Georges St. Pierre, who's ever lived. I think now you have to give it to Georges St. Pierre because both Anderson and John tested positive at least once. Actually, both at least twice if you count individual substances. So McGregor's really the only draw at that point. Yeah, and there aren't a lot of people for him to fight in the lighter weight divisions. Mm-hmm. The guy, listen, Conor McGregor, I was not the biggest fan, but when he goes into boxing, I am, just because Floyd Mayweather, is a Grand Rapids boy. And as people know, I've spent a lot of time there, and I actually know a lot of people who know him, and everyone just talks about what a douche he is. Yeah. And, So I don't, I don't know how much. The truth is, there are no expectations for McGregor to do well in this. But that's kind of the mystique: is can he pull it off? And now that they just moved from 10-ounce gloves to 8-ounce gloves, it's not a big deal. Floyd Mayweather's fought most of his fight with 8-ounce gloves. In the UFC, they're 4-ounce gloves. Yeah. But a lot of people don't know this about boxing, and I'll let you ask any questions about this specifically. But when you look back at before Queensberry rules, boxing, the gloves, they're designed to allow people to take more punishment. It's very unnatural. When people bare knuckle boxed, it wasn't like boom, boom, work the jab and combinations, because people would break your hand pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So the gloves were designed to allow people to punch for a longer amount of time without breaking their hands. It's not really natural. So the closer you get to the natural, it really changes the style. That whole kind of like, that whole Ali and rope-a-dope thing, and in Tyson, they call that the peekaboo. It doesn't work. It doesn't work in actual fighting. No. So people don't realize that can change things quite a bit, just not in this instance, because the really, really tiny weight classes like Floyd Mayweather, I mean, the guy's a manlet, they always have them wear lighter gloves.
Yeah, and for people that don't know, the people that don't know much about MMA, I used to feel this way too, because I didn't know better. I used to think like it's like, the whole human cockfighting thing. I'd see you watching videos on YouTube, and I'd be like, that's horrible. I don't like, that's just so terrible.
Savages.
Until I started, like you started doing, once you start explaining it to me, and you're doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu and stuff, I was like, oh, this is much better than boxing. It's much more humane. It's much more realistic to what happens in real life. But like you said, like the history of the UFC is really testing out what works in an actual street fight, right? So, this is just...
Yeah, that's how it started. It started with, there were no weight classes. There were no rules except for, I think it was no biting or eye gouging. You could even hit in the groin. So that's one of these Krav Maga guys or Kung Fu, these silly charlatans are like, man, you don't know, but it's not in a cage, it's on the street. It's like, well, we do know, because that was UFC 1 through 8, and you guys got your asses kicked. You did your little stupid little wushu dance, and Hoist Gracie, wearing dad's pajamas, wrapped you up like a child. And then what happened is everyone learned jiu-jitsu, and it adapted. People going, okay, everyone learned jiu-jitsu. So then there was kind of this era of wrestlers where they learned how to negate jiu-jitsu. And then there were really good kickboxers who learned takedown defense to take on, and it evolved. And now we know what works. Yeah. The most effective combat arts are, as a matter of fact, just any combat sport. So any martial art like Kung Fu or Krav Maga, where they lie to you and say, it's so deadly we can't practice it, doesn't work. Yeah. Throw it out.
Yeah.
Boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and variations thereof, like judo, sambo, full contact karate, things that you can actually full on spar. Those are the only effective arts, because the truth is, you can role play with your stupid little eye flicks until the cows come home, but you're not necessarily going to do that in a situation where adrenaline's pumping. It's not instinctive because you haven't trained it against a resisting opponent. And guess what? I can eye poke too. Yeah. So it's a big lie. And anyone who says otherwise is an idiot who has no business discussing combat sports, period. Now, and I say that fully and boldly. We've had too many people come, people have come into the jiu-jitsu gyms and it's just like, oh, I do Krav Maga. It's like, oh, okay. Well, how about you just do the warm up? And it's throwing it.
Well, I did jiu-jitsu for the first time, and I had this little guy that couldn't be, in my mind, he wasn't bigger than 4 foot tall, and he got on my chest and, held me down and using jiu-jitsu, and he was like, all right, now get me off of you any way you can. And I tried, and this little 100 and something pound guy, I could not get him off of me. And I was like, oh, this is why this stuff works.
And then he did the reverse, and he got you off right away.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I just did that with Owen Benjamin. He's 6'7", 250 something. Wow.
Whoa,
so
6'7",
yeah,
really?
it's and it changes when you enter into the UFC. Now there are weight classes because everyone is just so hyper skilled. Yeah. But so that's always been interesting to me. So this is more so a question of individual fighters. It's a money fight, or Conor's children's children will never have to work. And it comes down to, Floyd Mayweather is probably the best boxer of all time.
Yeah.
People don't realize, defensively, the guy just shoulder rolls. And he's the best defensive boxer, bar none, of all time. And then probably the best overall boxer, maybe Sugar Ray Leonard. And but he's older, and McGregor's longer. He's got more power. So it really comes down to, can he do it with a lucky punch or something? So, it's compelling. It's compelling. It's just not anything particularly new. We're just reversing the roles. And so I find it less intriguing when you limit someone's tools as opposed to allowing what would occur in a fight naturally.
All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll get back to the rest of the interview. Scofflaws, I wanted to take a second to talk to you about Patreon. Now, if you've never heard of Patreon, basically it's a platform for creators, for patrons who are fans of a given creator to help support their creations. So we have a Patreon page for the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast. You could support the show for as little as $1 an episode, which is like what? This is just cheaper than a Starbucks coffee, right? So maybe give up one. Why does everyone always do that? They say it's cheaper than a cup of coffee. Okay, what else do you spend $1 on? Maybe it's cheaper than buying Q-tips. Maybe you don't need Q-tips for the month. Maybe this month you avoid Q-tips, right? I don't know. I mean, I hear they're bad for you anyway, but maybe that's not true. I don't. Maybe don't sacrifice anything related to health for the $1 an episode. But Patreon is great because you, the patron, also gets rewards for joining the Patreon. So examples of stuff that we have are extended interviews and outtakes, stuff that gets cut out of the episode that you don't hear for time's sake, because we try to keep a tight, entertaining show, and sometimes there is some gold that doesn't make the final cut. So you get to listen to some of that. Also, you get behind-the-scenes videos, photos, and bonus episodes. For example, we did a bonus episode at the Big Shave West, which was a lot of fun. So more of those type of things are coming, as well as monthly live video hangouts where you can interact with us in person, which is a lot of fun. We've done a couple of free ones to test it out, and it's been a lot of fun. We get to talk with the listeners in real time and get to know them, and they get to ask questions, and it's always a good time. And here's the pièce de résistance is when we hit our goal mark, we are launching a whole new movie review podcast, a Gentleman Scofflaw movie review podcast. Since we're all of us on the show are writers and filmmakers, and that's our background. We love movies. We're going to go through a catalog of what we think are either gentleman or Scofflaw-esque movies. So if you join, you'll get that show as well. Everyone who joins on Patreon at any one of the tiers, even at the $1 an episode, gets a free Gentleman Scofflaw vinyl sticker, which is super cool. It's a full color sticker. It's really sticky. You could stick it on, anything you want to stick it on. Also, you'll get thanked on the air for your support. So check out patreon.com/gentscofflaw, or you could go to gentlemanscofflaw.com and click the support link on our menu, and it'll take you right there. We look forward to seeing you on Patreon, and thank you for supporting the show. I mean, I think it's definitely like a big, like you said, a big promotional tool, because I feel like Mayweather knows if it were UFC rules, he wouldn't have a chance. I mean,
no, because he's a moron. He's like, listen, Conor McGregor, he tapped. He done tap. He's a quitter. I ain't a quitter. You give me 12 seconds with Floyd Mayweather, he'll be tapping like his life depends on it. And I mean me, but you think, yes, I would kick the crap out of Floyd Mayweather. You give me 5 minutes and he'll be tapping at least 10 different times. Anyone who says I would never tap has never actually grappled. It's it's delusion. It's like me saying, "Oh, I'll get in the ring with Floyd Mayweather and I'll knock him out." No, he's gonna mock me, and I won't hit him at all, and he's gonna tag me, and I'm gonna go down like a ton of bricks. Tapping is it's a symbolism of thanks for not killing me, thank you for not choking me, thank you for not breaking my limb, and you live to fight another day. Yeah. You like Floyd Mayweather really thinks he would go up against Nate Diaz and he wouldn't get submitted. So that's the thing. He thinks he would fare better in a fight, which, Floyd Mayweather's a boxer, not a fighter. And now we know there's a difference. There are good boxers and there are really good fighters. McGregor's a really good fighter, and Mayweather's a good boxer, and Mayweather's enough of a man to box him. McGregor and Mayweather. It's either getting mixed up. McGregor's enough of a man to box him. Mayweather's not man enough to actually fight. That's how I look at it.
Well, it's like to qualify what you said, people would say, "Oh, did you hear Crowder? He said he beat up Floyd Mayweather." Yes. That's crazy. So they think that's hyperbole, but unless you've actually done it, and like even just taking a basic first introduction 30-minute jiu-jitsu class, you realize, none of that stuff matters when it comes to the real thing.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you might get a lucky punch in, but I am 6'2", 225, and Mayweather is like 5'2" or something, 145 pounds. So, I mean, there's that size difference. I'm not delusional. He's an unbelievable boxer, and I have no chance at all. But if I wrap him up, he's fallen down. He has no way to survive on the ground. I'd pick any guy 180 pounds or above who's a blue belt in jiu-jitsu against Mayweather in a street fight. Yeah. So that's, I think it's a really interesting fight. It's fun. Obviously two really great showmen, and I've got to respect that. Yeah. But people who think that this is some kind of display of who the better fighter is, it's not. It's more akin to finding out who the better tennis player is than an actual fight.
Well, is there a world where Mayweather agrees to the UFC rules? Because if he sounds like he's overconfident about it, then he should be open to it, right? It wouldn't be an issue for him.
No, he wouldn't. I mean, James Toney a lot of people don't realize he was a great boxer in his time, and it took Randy Couture all of, I think, 12 seconds to get him down. He hit a low single. It was very, very quick, and James Toney trained for a long time for mixed martial arts. Yeah. So, I mean, Mike Tyson has openly said, they said, do you think you would have done well in the first UFC? He said, man, I wouldn't have known. Doith Gracie, we didn't know that back then. I wish I could have known. I probably would have been great in MMA if I'd have studied it. But if I'd have tried, I would have gotten my ass kicked. That's Mike Tyson. Very open about it.
Yeah.
It's funny because I don't know. I mean, mixed martial arts seems like it would be harder to adapt to than boxing. Like from going to boxing to mixed martial arts, as opposed from mixed martial arts to boxing.
For sure,
I mean, obviously they're two different disciplines, and I feel like there's more restraint going on in boxing if you're coming from a UFC background as opposed to the other way around. I don't know. A
lot of these MMA guys, because they have to train in so many different disciplines, it's kind of like the jack of all trades thing, where they have one thing that they're really good at, and then everything else is kind of, they have to get a rudimentary knowledge of it. And a lot of them aren't super great boxers.
I think McGregor boxed unprofessionally for a little while.
Oh, he did.
He wasn't very good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But John looks like he's going to say something. Yeah.
The way I kind of see it is the UFC style of fighting is you're trying to figure out any way to breach the castle wall. And boxing, it's, getting 30 guys to pick up the fallen tree to ram through the gate, Yeah.
You're right.
Is that an accurate way to look at it?
Yeah, what it is? It's like the British lining up, the redcoats lining up, and then all of a sudden, Mel Gibson and Patriot, they're doing the militia, and he ran through the forest like a ghost, like a ghost. It's like, who said we had to line up, dumbass? It's just so. It's and it is true. There isn't great. There's a lot of really bad boxing in MMA. There's a lot of bad jiu-jitsu in MMA. I mean, I've rolled with really good MMA guys, and not great jiu-jitsu, because it's a lot easier to learn defense, jiu-jitsu defense, to avoid certain things than actually getting really good in the ground. And then every now and then you see a really high level guy, like you just saw Damian Maia, right? Damian Maia submitted 4 or 5 people on his way to Tyron Woodley. And Tyron Woodley, that fight, Tyron Woodley, what people don't understand about this, and if I'm getting too off in the weeds, just tell me to shut up, but people watch this fight. So Tyron Woodley is the welterweight champion. He ran for 5 rounds. He just was on his bicycle. But Damian Maia, they call him a human backpack, right? Super high level jiu-jitsu. That's pretty much all he has, which is rare in 2017. And when he grabbed Tyron Woodley grabbed the fence. Now here's the thing: Damian Maia
Let me out of here.
Yeah, but the fight goes on and then you're saved between rounds. Yeah. When there are no rounds and no time limits, it infinitely favors the grappler, because if Tyron Woodley, they're like, okay, if it happens 2 or 3 times, they might take a point away. But the truth is, with an 80% submission rate from Damian Maia, if Tyron Woodley doesn't grab that fence, he goes to the ground and he loses his championship. So he actually says, there's a risk-reward ratio. I'm going to grab the fence. Most of the time, refs don't do anything, and it's going to keep me from this human backpack. And so Damian Maia just kept trying to take him down, and the guy kept cheating, and Tyron Woodley won, retained his title. Anyway, it broke my heart, because Damian Maia had the same fight against Anderson Silva, where when you're that good at grappling, all the other guy has to do is run away. Yeah. But that's because you're both fighting for a title. In a street fight, you don't go, oh, we're about to fight, and you run, right? You fight.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge when you're really, really good at grappling, and people who don't know watch it and go, well, there's not a lot of grappling left in the UFC. Because if you are known for grappling, people they run away from you really, really quickly. You can see it. They're terrified. And the same thing with boxing. If you're a really, really high level boxer, they'll just clinch and pin you up against the cage. So you don't get to see it. You just see kind of some basics. But you're seeing better boxing in MMA now. And Conor McGregor is a good example. It's something like a good example. Peekaboo boxing. For people who don't know, go watch Mike Tyson. And what he does, he holds his guard up really high and his elbows in, right? So that protects his head, his chin, his ribs. And he would just come in and people would throw punches at him and he'd be closed up. And then he was so explosive, and he'd just throw a barrage of punches. Well, if you don't have those giant pillow boxing gloves, that high guard doesn't protect your head. It doesn't protect your temple, doesn't protect behind your ear, and you can still get knocked out. So when boxers will look at MMA and you'll see like Floyd Mayweather be like, I see his hands are low, and it's like, well, hold on a second. It's because head movement and foot placement is a lot more important than just using your gloves to protect your face. You can't do that in MMA. So you've got to establish range more and keep your hands ready for a takedown. You can't just do boxing. That being said, George St. Pierre has beat half of his opponents by just using a really good jab. So there is something to be said for it, but people it's just not the same thing. One's fighting and one's a sport. And when you both say, all right, nothing except these two fists are allowed, it changes the whole dynamic.
Yeah, sure. Well, they're kind of both assholes, right? I mean, is that fair to say?
I feel like McGregor's a prick, and then Mayweather seems to have this like false humility that he puts on at times. But you definitely get the sense,
Well, I mean, they're definitely, like you said, they're good like promoters, and they're kind of like they're doing the kind of professional wrestling thing where they're hyping up the fight, and everything. But I mean, do you think that boxing has a chance to last in future generations? Is it still is it sustainable? Like, does it still have fans?
Well, I mean, it'll still exist. Like, I'm sure there are still POG championships going on somewhere.
Only in Canada.
Tournament rules.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure it does, but it's just no. I mean, after the Klitschko's left, he kind of had a resurgence with Tyson Fury. Mayweather's gone. You can't really name any stars in boxing anymore. Yeah. So, I don't know. It certainly won't exist in the capacity like when we were young, Mike Tyson's Punch Out and all that. It's just the mystique is gone. Like I said, they're boxers. They're not fighters. So, people want to see the best fighter in the world. But I think McGregor, is putting on an act. If you look at when McGregor lost to Diaz, he was actually really pretty humble and took it and just, chewed on it and then came back and won the rematch by a very slim margin, but still like he learned from it. Mayweather is super, super cocky. He's putting this on now. I don't know if you noticed, if you watched the latest press conference, there was a moment when they're doing a stare down and, Mayweather's still looking at the crowd. And then it's time for them to like look back at each other. And, you see, McGregor's looking at the crowd. You see Mayweather touch McGregor on the elbow and mutter something, and then McGregor looks around at him like he was like, "Okay, man, like they're clearly they don't hate each other. They really don't hate each other. They're both making a ton of money."
Yeah. It was like when we went to see WWF at the Forum, and we saw the same guys coming out of the locker room, same locker room. Man, he's coming out of the same locker room. But I don't know if you saw this. This is kind of an off tangent, but apparently, Justin Bieber and Mayweather were close buds. But apparently Bieber's trying to get his life together now, and he can't have bad influences in his life.
Strip clubs, that's what it's all
about.
So
he unfollowed Mayweather, and Mayweather lost his crap.
Really?
I don't know if you saw that. Yeah, he unfollowed him on
insane.
Instagram, and he was super pissed at that. So,
I kind of feel bad for Justin Bieber sometimes. I'm like, imagine having by the time you're old enough to understand money, you never need to do anything for it again.
Well, yeah.
That's a wonderful problem to have.
Well, I mean, but it messes with because everyone is, you don't know who's really your friend. The guy was surrounded by his whole entourage, and they convinced, like his personal trainer convinced him that he was badass. And it's like, come on, like they're not doing you a favor. The funniest thing I ever saw when Bieber was going after a fan, he's wearing that little I think a Canadian a Habs beanie or something, and his bodyguard literally picks him up under the armpits like a baby, places him in the van.
Oh man,
no, I think that's the thing about Bieber though. I think I heard it was like some people at his church we're giving him advice about okay, you gotta watch out who you're hanging out with. And Mayweather, I think I mean, it was bad influence,
Well, it's weird that he's a 40-year-old friends with a little kid, but then I think well, that's what Michael Jackson was.
Well, yeah, well, but then I think it's also like just collecting celebrities to be around.
I bet you if MJ
relevant.
were still around, though, if Michael Jackson was still on, Bieber would be like
he'd tap that.
He'd be drinking the Jesus juice really quickly.
It's kind of a shame that a guy like Bieber was around after Michael Jackson. I feel like they were made for each other.
I tell you what, kid John, what were you gonna say? I see it.
I miss your bit of Michael Jackson leading kids to his room with M&Ms. I don't know if you remember that.
Those are my first bits.
No, they'll take it down. Well, let's go back into this the MMA
Fight,
thing.
yeah.
What was I going to say about that? Oh yeah. We went into the Justin Bieber thing. What was the other thing that we were?
I feel like we would. Are we going to talk about Pauly?
His church.
What?
His church, Justin Bieber. Yeah, he like unfriended Mayweather because like I went to Hillsong once.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hillsong,
yeah.
That's it.
Which I don't know if you've been like. I mean, Hillsong does some great things, but they opened up a church in L.A. and it's like joining the Freemasons. You couldn't, for the longest time, you couldn't find where they met and what time it was. And at first, I thought it was really shady, but apparently, it's because they didn't want to poach from the other churches in the neighborhoods. They wanted it to happen by word of mouth.
Interesting.
Nice.
Interesting. All right, who's going to win? What do you think? You think there's a chance that Conor McGregor wins at all?
I think Mayweather wins. I think the longer it goes on, the more it favors Mayweather. I think McGregor could, there's 6-1 odds for a reason. It was like 25-1 until, stupid public opinion got in the way. But it doesn't mean that McGregor has no chance. A guy like that with knockout power at that size, which is a rarity, he has a chance. I mean, there was a Paul Madigliani, the sparring footage, and McGregor tuned him up. But the guy did say that they started rolling the footage several rounds in after, he was only supposed to do like 2 rounds, and they had him going 5. And as someone who's been in the gym where I've been kind of a training partner for people who really like, I understand his point, but I mean, he got tuned up. So I do think McGregor is a smart enough guy that I don't think he's going to win, but I think he's got a few surprises. I wouldn't. That's what I think.
Could be like Brad Pitt from Snatch. Just come up with that wildcat punch.
Is it
You like dogs?
Is it possible that he could go rogue and just start going full MMA on him just for fun while the cameras are rolling?
It'd be amazing if he just head kicked him. Don't do nothing.
What's his catch line? He would always say, "I'm your father." Was it? "I'm your father. I'm your daddy." What is it?
I don't know. He is a character though, and so it's entertaining. I think. What do you guys think? Who are you calling?
I based on this conversation and not knowing much about Floyd Mayweather, I don't know. I would think that he still, if it's boxing rules, he wins. Obviously, I think, but
I agree.
It'd be nice to see a boxer get it, though, to let him for him to be humbled. But
I'd say
the thing is, they're both like, I don't like either of them. They're both kind of jackasses, so it's like, I don't know. I guess I'd like to see the MMA guy win.
I'd say head says Mayweather, heart says McGregor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Mayweather's probably going to take it.
Heads, I let you live. Tails, I blow your damn head off. Terrible Batman with the rubber nipples.
I thought you were referring to No Country for Old Men.
Oh no, that was Tommy Lee Jones in that Batman Forever.
Oh yeah. The thing is though, I liked that movie as a kid, and then when I go back and watch it, I'm like, this does not hold up.
Wait, No Country for Old Men?
No, the Batman with was it Two-Face? The
Tommy Lee
original
Jones?
Two-Face, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Batman Forever was okay.
Have you gone back and watched it recently?
I haven't. But
It's
I
brutal.
guess here's the thing. I'm comparing it to Batman and Robin. That's the thing. That
was so bad.
That was
really bad. So in other words, I guess when I say that, I'm saying compared to Batman and Robin, Batman Forever was okay.
Batman and Robin was so bad that even children were like, "Oh, this is really bad." I mean, even like you look back at Joel Schumacher had no respect for the source material. You don't have to be a comic book nerd, but Bane was this brilliant, super high IQ, and the mask that he has, the venom, is what caused him. Like basically was effectively like a a gas sort of steroid that he would inhale, and it kept the pain at bay. But it was like, that's never changed. There are different but that's never changed. A genius who was super strong, the one who broke Batman's back. That's a famous story. Yeah. And Joel Schumacher reduced all that to remember Bane? People remember Bane was the green guy with the mask. He was
he was like the muscle behind Poison Ivy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
And the irony is that I feel like Joel Schumacher did what Tim Burton avoided, which was smart. Which Tim Burton, everybody wanted it to make. They didn't take it seriously. They wanted to make it like Adam West Batman, and he was gonna. They were gonna cast Bill Murray as Bruce Wayne, but then he was like, no, I want to take it back to the source material and make it dark. And then that happened, and it worked. And then they decided to go back to the campiness and kind of. I don't know why George Clooney thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, it was really bad. All the puns.
Thank God for Christopher Nolan.
Chill, everybody chill. Wasn't there one line that was in the trailers that wasn't in?
Hell will freeze over.
There was one that was like, "There's a storm coming."
I remember I was on a set of a film called Three Needles with Shawn Ashmore. He ended up being the fire guy in X-Men. These people were such douchebags. And I remember joking about that. And I remember I'm like, there's a storm coming. And I'm like, imagine trying to direct Arnold. Like, all right, give it more emotion. Like, take 24. There's a storm coming. Like, okay, try to take 32. There's a storm coming. Like, all right, listen, really give us some, like, make it your own. Take 56. There's a storm coming. Baby. And I remember Shawn Ashmore looked at me. He's like, that's not funny. And I was like, oh, you're a self-important Hollywood schmuck.
Wait, really? He actually said that to you?
He was like Bruno Kirby in Good Morning Vietnam.
Yeah.
He's like, I know funny. That's not funny. I'm funny.
It's not funny. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Man. All right. Well, I guess we'll see. Who wins. Tomorrow. But where can people find you if they want to find your stuff?
Just a lot of withcrowder.com is the best place to go, best place to start. And that's about it. Anyone who wants to watch the show and all that, YouTube, they can search and don't believe everything you read.
Don't believe everything you read on Wikipedia.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And rich.
Depending on the day, I'm either a Nazi or I work for big Jews. So.
That there's a war on Wikipedia that they go on there and they change it every day. Because I used to do that with my friend Aaron in my sketch troupe in Austin. He always on IMDb he claimed he was 6'1", which I knew he was 5'9" on a good day, and I'd go on and change it, and he would change it back all the time.
Yeah, it happens on Wikipedia. It's awful. Terrible place.
Well, thanks for doing this. We'll have to have you back on another time and talk about other stuff.
Have you back
once
on
you get the actual hydro flask going.
for the Christmas episode. We can do Home Alone lines.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Silver tuna tonight.
All right, thanks again. Let's take a quick break and we'll get back with the end of the show. Hey, this part of the show is brought to you by Phoenix Shaving. If you like to shave, and you are a man or a woman, I mean, some women are hairy. That's all right. That's okay. No judgment. But if you're a guy that likes to shave and appreciates the finer things in life, go to gentlemanscofflaw.com/shave. That link helps support the show, and you could check out some of Douglas Smythe's amazing shaving soaps, aftershave colognes. You'll be blown away at all the stuff he has. Scents for days. He is like the Walter White of artisan soap making. He's got this lab basically there in Phoenix, Arizona, where he creates his soaps and he cures them. It's an independent business. You're not giving your money to all those guys that are ripping everybody off with razors. Right now, you can get some wet shaving starter packs. So it has everything you need to get started wet shaving. You can get sets that have the safety razor, the brush, the soap, the aftershave, tons of great scents to pick from. I've mentioned before, one of my favorites is Tombstone. Also, they have Sundown, which is like a classic barbershop scent. They've got Cavendish, which smells like pipe tobacco, which is amazing. I tell you, I've been using the stuff and I don't get any razor burn or razor bumps anymore. This stuff is amazing, especially the aftershave. It just removes all irritation, bumps, redness. It's like I've never looked so dapper in my life, and that's thanks to Phoenix Shaving. So go to gentlemanscofflaw.com/shave and stop being a slave to the cartridge razor shave. All right, coming to a close here. That was fun. I don't know who's gonna win.
Was that guy related to you?
I'd never heard of him before. I just found him off the street.
If I were a betting man, I would go with Powerball.
Powerball, yeah. Powerball's a good
Powerball, yeah. 700 million.
You know what time it is, guys? It's time to announce the winner of the giveaway. The winner of this giveaway will receive a Sundown Aftershave and Cologne from Phoenix Shaving. And you guys ready? You got a drum roll here? Drum roll. And the winner is Saw Cossey. Saw Cossey, you win the aftershave. And just keep an eye out for a direct message from us, and we'll get your address and send that right out.
To give another glowing endorsement to that aftershave, which is the aftershave I use, actually.
Yeah.
I splashed a little on there before a date with my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And she didn't smell it on my face. She smelled it on my hand, actually, first.
Oh, your hand. Okay.
Wow.
So, and she was like, "What is that?" And she was trying to figure it out. But I knew what it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, "That's Sundown Aftershave, baby." And, yeah, no,
We're just gonna record.
I won't use anything.
You doing an ad for Sundown?
Why was she smelling your hands?
Sundown aftershave, baby.
Why wouldn't you?
I don't know. I was maybe I was like, caressing her face very, very nicely,
Salsa,
like a robot, like a robot.
And next week we're going to give away another aftershave from Phoenix Shaving, and it is Lavender Planet. So if you want to win that, click the link in the show notes to our Instagram giveaway and enter that, and we'll announce the winner on next week's episode. All right, and John, there are ways people can help support the show, right?
That's right.
What ways?
They can go to the merchandise shop and
they
can shop for
I forgot
merchandise.
we had that, right? The merch shop. What kind of stuff do we got on there? What kind of goods?
We got mugs and water tumblers, flasks, and stickers.
Water tumbler.
Sounds like a ride at Raging
You
Waters.
made it sound very sissified. They're pint glasses. They're not water tumblers.
Come on.
Pint glasses and garlic press and stickers.
For all those Italians
all sorts
out
of stuff.
All sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah, if you want to support the show, go to gentlemanscofflaw.com and click the shop section, and there's a bunch of stuff with our logo on it and cool stuff, right?
Cool stuff, yeah.
I think we picked a couple of things that we thought our listeners would enjoy having, not just like putting a bunch of logos on anything, really.
I mean, they don't want lame stuff. They want cool
lame
stuff.
Like the flask is super cool. It's a silver flask it's got a silverized logo on it.
And you know what? One thing that I have learned recently is if you're going to carry a flask with you, obviously it depends on how long you're going to be out and such, but it does pay to have a smaller flask because then if you go to bars and let's say you don't want to pay the exorbitant amount for alcohol, you just kind of sleight of hand, take that flask out, it's palm size, slowly pour it into the Coke. And just replace, or
the cranberry juice,
or the cranberry juice.
I think that with your size, I feel like the flask would fit in your sleeve. Like you could put one of those rubber bands they do with the mittens, and you could just extend it and it would just suck back in your sleeve like a magician.
I specifically say this because I was out with a group of friends recently. And I didn't want to pay for their expensive alcohol and stuff. So I did do that. And it was right as the waitress was standing there and she had no idea. I just basically took my hand and was over my glass.
You're like the David Blaine of alcoholics.
I am. I'm very good. I'm quite good.
All right.
It's only when it comes to the sawing the lady in half that I start to run into trouble.
Oh, man.
Slur my words.
And we do want to acknowledge that we know that we were were on hiatus the last couple of weeks, and we just had a lot of life going on. You know, we did like 6 months, almost 6 months of shows every week.
We were pondering the important
Is
questions.
that a
in life.
Japanese word? It
Pondering?
sounds Japanese.
What, hiatus?
Yeah.
Maybe it is.
Haiku. You're thinking of haiku.
haikus.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
It was
one
a
of these
break.
days we got to get Japanese whiskey on the show.
Yeah. I mean,
Uzo?
Suntory time.
It's not bad. Not bad.
Yeah. So we apologize for that break, but now we're going to be back. Well, we are back doing it weekly, and we've got some good guests coming up. So stay tuned and don't unsubscribe. Keep subscribing on iTunes. Leave us reviews because that helps us out.
If you go to a library, just on every computer there, just subscribe.
Yeah.
Just subscribe on every different computer.
Or just like set the homepage to gentlemanscofflaw.com, which, by the way, you could find all the links in the show notes for this show for anything we mentioned on here. If you want to learn more about it, they'll be in the links. But you could also set that as the homepage. Set this episode as the homepage, right?
Yeah. No limits.
Mm-hmm.
No limits. You could even set the merch shop. And people will be like, "Oh, that's a nice T-shirt. I might just pick up that T-shirt.
Buy it for me."
Oh, it's an actual podcast. I'm going to check this out." See, there are little ways that you could do this to help support the show. Just get the name out
Tell
there.
your friends.
Tell your friends. Tell your coworkers. Listen to it. Like if you're in the office, put on the speakers at the end of the day while you're packing up and everybody's getting, just play the podcast. It'll be like, that's a funny show. What is that?
Just randomly plug it on the street, which by that I mean take an earbud and just plug it into somebody's ear as they're walking,
Or what they could do
without consent, and just and let them listen and let them decide for themselves.
Like in LA, right? There's a lot of homeless people and they're asking for money.
There are a lot of homeless people.
Why
in LA.
not buy a stack of Gentleman Scofflaw stickers? And I got something better for you than money. I got this great podcast. You could stick this on your grocery cart.
And then, but if I was a homeless person, I'd probably be like, "I'll tell you where to stick it."
All right, now
I'm just going natural there.
Johnny boy, you are a gentleman and a scofflaw, my friend.
You guys too.
Donovan, you are a gentleman and a scofflaw, my friend.
And to you as well.
And you guys have a great week.
This has been the Gentleman Scofflaw podcast. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcatcher. Visit us on the interwebs at gentlemanscofflaw.com.
Captain says his ice on the river. We ain't getting home if we don't break through. So damn cold, I can't help but shiver. Rise and shine, we got work to do. Hey! So damn cold, I can't help but shiver.